Hello, and welcome to the fourth uRTcmix tutorial video, the uRTcmix computer music language inside the Unity game development and VR creation environment. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about reading and using sound files, kind of an important thing to be able to do. So let's get started. Now, I've gone ahead and set up the environment with our uRTcmix.unity package and brought the uRTcmix main object up here so we can get the functionality we need. Set the flags appropriately. Let's go ahead and make some sound. Let's start out by just using the Unity system to play back an existing sound file. I've got one out here. It's my cat meowing, my old cat Nissa. And here we go. It meows. So we're simply going to take that sound file and we're going to bring it down into our assets so we have it available. And we can check this. There's the nice Unity sort of sound file display and playback system over here. But to use it in our Unity environment, we're going to create a new game object. Just make it an empty one because we're not really doing anything with the objects here. And we'll call it cat. Not cat game object, but just cat. Okay. Now, in order to play this back with the Unity system, all we have to do is drag the sound file up onto the game object. Once we do that, it creates a new audio source component with the audio clip set to that sound file. Now, in the past, we've done the audio source components for uRTcmix processes, but it had no associated audio clip because they were generating the sound. In this case, Unity is generating the sound by playing back that clip. And we can actually set it to loop. And if we play our game or run our environment, we can hear the cat will meow over and over again. Okay, so that's fun, but there's only a very limited amount of signal processing you can do with the basic Unity system. Some echo, some reverb, things like that. Suppose we wanted to do something a bit more extensive, like add an amplitude modulation process to make the cat sound weird. Well, to do that, you have to turn to an external source like uRTcmix, and let's do it. We're going to add a component, a new script, which will be where we put all our uRTcmix commands. We'll call it catam. Now let's go ahead and fire up the editor on this script. And of course, Unity sets us up with the very basic thing where it just gives you the start method and the update method. Well, let's put in the uRTcmix methods and functions that we need. And this time, let's take it from our script template, and we'll grab what we need from here and bring it in. The uRTcmix script template basically has all the uRTcmix functions that you might need. But let's get what we want. First of all, we are going to be doing some string operations. So let's copy that out, paste it into our catam script. Then let's go back here and pretty much let's now grab everything and we'll weed out what we don't want. First of all, we need our object number for the uRTcmix process we're running. We need the uRTcmix main variable to access the functionality of uRTcmix, our did start flag, and let's just go down here and grab everything else down to our on application quit function. Copy that out. Go back to our catam. We won't use any of those now because we'll replace them with everything that we're going to paste in. And now we've got our object number, we've got our uRTcmix main, which will find that. The awake method will indeed find that uRTcmix main object with all the functions. We're initializing uRTcmix in our start method, setting did start to be true. We don't need update or any of these utility functions here, so we'll just delete those. In onAudioFilterRead, we check our did start flag, of course, and then we run uRTcmix if it's working. We're not going to need any of these utility functions, so let's select all of them and get rid of them. And now we're set to go. We do need to make one change because we are now going to be processing sound coming in from outside. We're going to set this 0 to be 1. That's the flag that says we're going to do input processing. Well, where's that sound coming from? We'll talk about that in a minute. So we're pretty much set to go here. What we need to do is send an uRTcmix score that will do the amplitude modulation work. I've already got one made. It's this called nissaam.txt. And it's very simple, only 3 lines. I'm going to talk about them once we get them inside Unity. But right now I need to format it, so I'm going to copy it so that Unity will be happy with it. I'll use the scorealizer for this because I like the scorealizer. Okay, paste in your score. There we go. Hit return, type Control D, and there's our score. So I'm going to grab this, bring it out here, and I'll copy that out. Go back to Unity, and in here in my start method, I will paste it in. And there we've got our score. And to make it run, I say uRTcmix.sendScore, and I give it the string name, score, send it to this object number, and it'll work. Well, what'll it do? Well, the first thing you see in this score, we'll just use it, we'll look at it here in the editor because it's not too bad. We have a new uRTcmix directive that says RT input audio. This says, hey uRTcmix, you're going to get sound from somewhere else, and you're going to process it from that stream. I'll show you where that comes from in just a second. But we also set up a low frequency oscillator as a sine wave that'll go from 100 Hertz up to 1500 Hertz down to 100 Hertz over and over again. And we use that to control our amplitude modulation process. Last thing we do is we set a really huge duration because we just want it to run the whole time that the environment is going. So that can be arbitrary. I just chose 9999. Okay, at this point we're ready to roll. Let's go over here. Now, here's where the sound comes from. This audio source, normally in Unity it doesn't matter the order that these components are listed in the inspector, but with audio it does because it falls through. So the audio source is playing this sound. It will actually then go as input to the next component here that treats audio, which is our AM script from uRTcmix. So if this were above here, we wouldn't hear anything because we have to generate the audio by reading the sound file and sending it in. But it's sent in, it should work. Now, in the past, we've had to create an audio source for our uRTcmix scripts because they were generating the audio and they didn't have any audio clips. We don't have to have a secondary one here because once you have one audio source on a game object, that signals to Unity that audio is coming from here. So in this case, Unity is going to get the processed audio. Let's hear what it sounds like. Hit play, and you should hear a very weird cat meowing. There it is. Yes, that is one amplitude modulated cat. Now, that's good, but Unity only plays back clips like this. What if we wanted to do something more extensive by accessing the sound file randomly or doing some other processing that was a bit more intense? Or maybe not play the sound file from the beginning all the way to the end. We can do that by working entirely in uRTcmix. So we're not going to use the Unity audio source. We're going to use the RT input command to read the sound file directly in uRTcmix. So for this, we're going to get rid of our cat game object we just made. Let's get rid of our cat sound file. We're going to keep the cat AM script because we're going to modify it to do our work. Well, what work are we going to do? Well, let's start with a longer sound file. This is a recording of my old dog, Lucher. You can look it up on the web. It's kind of a famous dog. And you'll hear it barks. It's got a nice howl. And it lasts about 9 seconds, 9 or 10 seconds. Well, let's create a script that will simply play that sound file back for us. And we can do that by, we're going to call cat AM now. We're going to call it dog AM. And initially we won't do amplitude modulation, but we're going to use it to just play back the sound. Now again, we're going to have to create an empty game object. We'll call this one dog. And we're going to put this dog AM script onto it, but we have to do some surgery to it first. Most importantly, it says it's cat AM. We need to change the name, of course, to dog AM. so that it matches what the script name is. Okay, we're going to keep this, everything here, finding the uRTcmix main object, initializing it, and we're going to send the score, but we're going to replace the score. We're not going to use the cat AM score anymore. Let's just set up a score that will simply play back the sound. I've got that already out here. This is one called Lucher Basic. Okay, it's got a simple RT input and a stereo. Talk about how that works in a second, but let me scorealize it. Copy it out. Go to our scorealizer, and we'll paste it in. Hit Control D. There's our formatted score. Bring it over here, and there it is. Now, what do we see here? Instead of RT input audio, it has, escaping the quotation marks, of course, the path name, full path name to the sound file of the dog on my disk. Well, that should work, and in fact it will work, and in fact it's entirely internal to uRTcmix, so we're no longer reading in input processing from externally. We're reading it in from uRTcmix, so we can set that back to be 0. The stereo command will simply play it back for 9.9 seconds. So this should find that sound file and play it back. Let's try it out. Of course, what we have to do is take the dog AM score or script, and we have to attach it to the dog game object. And of course, the other thing we have to do is now declare that this is in fact an audio source, because we no longer have that clip playback. And notice that there is no audio clip, but this should work. So we're going to hit play, and we should hear the dog bark. Indeed we do. Okay. Well, now let's have some fun with it. Let's go back and let's look at this AM score that I created, and basically it sounds like this. I've got it set up with the uRTcmix shell, and this is going to go through and randomly choose a little fragment of the dog sound file and apply a unique AM modulator to it, so it sounds like this. Yeah. Okay, let's make that happen with uRTcmix in Unity. Hi, uRTcmix. Let's close this off. Go to our scorealizer, paste in the score, hit Control D. We have the whole thing. Now let's go out here, replace that score with this score, and now we should hear the dog being weirdly amplitude modulated. Okay, gotta wait for the score to compile. There it goes. And now we hit play. And here we go. There it is. Now, it only plays very shortly, right? Because it's only playing it once. Now, because of what we learned in the Unix uRTcmix tutorial 3, we can go back and change that by adding a max bang to it. Let's see, we've got this here. There's our max bang down there. And we can check for that bang and re-trigger the score. Let's now scorealize that. Take the whole thing, put it into our score in place of this. Okay. And we've got it happening. Now, I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to make score be a class global variable by declaring it out here. We did this in the last tutorial too, so that I can reuse this score down in the onAudioFilterRead method. Once I set it here, then down here I can check for a max bang if uRTcmix.checkMaxBang or checkBang uRTcmix for our Objno. If that is equal to 1, then I can simply resend that score, which will resend the bang, and it now should repeat over and over again. Okay, it's going to compile here. There we go. And now we should hear a nice AM dog granular process over and over again. There we go. All right. There's one final thing we need to do that's kind of a big problem. And you may have already been kind of cognizant of this. This is an absolute path name to the sound file on my computer's disk. However, other computers won't have that sound file at that place. How can we set it up so that no matter where you've installed Unity, or no matter where you install the finished application, it'll find the sound file? Well, Unity has a really great thing which will give you the full path name to the assets directory in your final application or in your Unity install. So we can simply take the dog sound file and do what we did with the cat and add it here. And by using this Unity capability, we can find the path name to this directory and then append the sound file name to it. How do we do that? Well, let's get rid of the RT input here. And let's make a separate location. We're going to send uRTcmix.sendScore. We're going to send it RT input and then something with, of course, the appropriately escaped quotation marks. Okay, escape quote, and a quote at the end to our obgeno. Okay, how do we fill that out? Well, we can look for something. It's going to be a string. We're going to call it path, and that's going to be equal to application.datapath. That will give us, like I said, the directory of where these assets are located. So now we can simply take this and use this information here to say RT input, and then this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky, because we have to construct this on the fly, plus path, plus, and then we have to say, basically we need this, plus, we need this quote, okay, slash lucher441.aif, escape the final quotation. That will construct it. We have to escape a quotation here. We have to escape a quotation here. We have to put that thing in quotes. We have to put this thing in quotes. And since this is already a string, we just simply add it in there. I'm going to let you kind of look at that and kind of figure it out if you need to. There's many examples in our demos of how this is done, but this should set this up to properly set up the RT input command to find the sound file. And now we'll let it compile. And if we run it, we should hear the dog being AM'd over and over and over again. There we go. And now that will work no matter where Unity or our application is installed, and we can do all kinds of wonderful things to pre-existing sound files. Okay, that's the end of this tutorial. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you again. Bye.